Good evening, distinguished Wizards fans. This is the Bullets to Wizards podcast. I'm your host, Sully Hawk. And yeah, first and foremost, some quick housekeeping. We do want to apologize. It's been about a week and a half since our last upload. Life has been hectic for both me and my co-host Raj. Raj wasn't able to make it to this episode today, so I will be writing solo. But yeah, this past week, I moved back into college for spring semester. Raj has been on a family trip for a wedding, so yeah, life has just been a bit hectic. But we are still fully committed to this podcast, just like the Wizards are fully committed to their rebuild right now, or at least I hope they are. Will Dawkins and Michael Winger, you better be. But yeah, I definitely realized over the past week that we haven't posted a lot of Wizards news and out there, and I have every time my Woj or Shams tweeted Wizards news, I wanted to make an episode so bad, but just was really busy. But definitely, we're gonna talk about the Pistons trade today. We're gonna recap some of the games over the last week that we haven't been able to cover yet. And it's been a really interesting week. Beyond the Wizards Pistons trade with Marvin Bagley and all that, a lot of the games this last week, yeah, it's been the same like fourth quarter disappointment over and over. This team just gives up in the fourth quarter, but some pretty competitive games with some mostly competitive teams. Now, the one blight is that Pistons loss about a week ago on MLK Day. That one hurt a lot. That one stung, but beyond that, all the other games have been at least with the final score has been within less than 10 points. And I mean, the Bagley trade, I like it. I like it. Let's get into that right now. So, if you're a Wizards fan, listen to this podcast. You guys are already probably aware, but Danilo Gallinari and Mike Muscala were traded to the Pistons for Marvin Bagley III and Isaiah Livers, as well as two future second-round picks. And when I first saw it, I was like, damn, we got that for Gallo and Muscala. And look, I don't want to shade Gallo and Muscala, but I mean, they've been basically serving as our backup bigs to Gafford this year, and it's been part of the whole rebounding and defense issues this year. And Gallinari is just a shell of his former self after that injury he had last year. And Muscala is also just, he's a bit past his prime, and he's never really been a true like defensive center. He's just been a spot up shooter his whole career. And honestly, Muscala didn't even shoot that well this year, so for lack of a better term, good riddance to him. Hope Detroit has fun with them. Detroit hasn't bought them out yet. I can't imagine Detroit's going to get any trade value out of them, so they might just be veteran presence. And the whole point of the trade for Detroit, at first glance, it's like, oh, Bagley is kind of young. Why did they get rid of him? Well, he's being paid about $13 million a year, and he's on contract until next year. So I guess the Pistons, because they got their young core they're trying to believe in, but despite having one of the worst seasons in NBA history, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, all that. So, I mean, there's been rumors the Pistons might still try to boost their roster just to get out of the basement of the trade deadline. We'll see if they buy or sell. When you have 4 wins, I don't know why you would buy, but who knows what that front office is thinking with all that embarrassment. And I guess the Pistons, they just want to free up cap space for this offseason, which I get. Cap space is king, but still, giving up draft picks when you're a team that bad, I know I'm biased as a Wizards fan, but I feel like we fleeced them this trade. Like, this is a Will Dawkins, Michael Winger W right here. Like, throw up the dub sign. Like, I'm in love with this trade. Obviously, like the games of last week have felt more competitive in part because, well, Gafford was out for the first few games after the trade, and usually in the previous games of the season when Gafford has been out, it's usually been some weird either Kuzma starting at center or Muscala getting a spot start, and it's just the Wizards get bodied by literally every other center in the league when Gafford isn't playing. Even when Gafford is playing, when he goes on the bench, there's been an obvious drop off in rebounding abilities and defense. And yeah, having Bagley come in, there are flaws in his game. I do see why. I mean, he has bounced around the league despite being the second overall pick a few years ago. He still, when playing against like the Jokic's and Embiids of the world, he's not going to stand much of a chance on defense. But so far, at least from what I've seen, he's got hustle. Like he's really out there fighting for offensive rebounds. And I know there's that whole first 2 games he's like in that elite company. I mean, it's one of those obscure guys. I'm not going to put too much weight into it because, I mean, I think he's gonna come back down to earth. He's not gonna be dropping 20 and 10 every game, but it was still really cool to see him in his first 2 stars grab 20 and 10. And the lights just went out on me. All right, there. We got the lights back on here. apologies for that. I thought Tenliosis was getting mad at this podcast and turned out my power bill or something. But yeah, as I was saying, so far I've been really satisfied with Bagley and his contract. Yeah, I mean, he's getting paid a little bit more than what his production has been statistically, but one, I don't know how well. I mean, I'm gonna admit I haven't been an active watcher of Pistons game this year. I don't know how well Monty Williams has used him, and so his stats don't necessarily match his contract. But at the same time, with the salary cap keeps going up, I mean, we need to pay people at the cap floor. I mean, Kuzma's probably gonna be out of DC pretty soon, and I mean, we'll still have Poole's big, large, worst. I'm gonna say it. Poole's the worst contract in the NBA right now. I'm gonna probably have that on the books for the next few years. I don't think we're getting off Poole at this trade deadline, but we have cap space to play. If we're not going to be a free agent destination, the rebuild still has another 2-3 years before we can really consider signing some big free agent names. So Bagley's only under contract until next year, and at about 13 million, I can handle it. Money's being thrown around like crazy in today's NBA. Stephen A. Smith, an NBA analyst, is getting offered 20 million. So yeah, I'm not too worried about taking on Bagley's money, especially for a young player, as mentioned, former second overall pick. And while he may never be an all-star, he can definitely still, I think, be a really, really, really solid either six-man or starter at center. And despite his flaws, he does hustle for rebounds, even if he still will get boxed out a lot and out-muscled by the big centers. But overall, I like it. I mean, Isaiah Livers has not played much. I don't really expect him to play much. But, I mean, young guard, upside. And, yeah, honestly, I'm going to compare Bagley as just... It very much reminds me of the Gafford trade from a few years ago. In that trade, we got Gafford, and also the throw-in was Chandler Hutchinson, if you remember that guy. I remember we posted some funny TikToks. What a... that is a Wizards sicko deep cut player right there, Chandler Hutchinson, but... I guess honestly, I'm going to compare Isaiah Livers to Chandler Hutchinson in this deal. Throw-in not going to do much, but Bagley definitely a young player who's not maybe been used right in every situation in his career, but definitely on a team like the Wizards who need center minutes. I think he's definitely going to have a Gafford-like impact where he will have his nights where he struggles and you're like, what the heck, I want a real center. But overall, you're going to appreciate his hustle. You're going to appreciate what he does out there, and yeah, I mean, I'm going to give this trade an A. Like, so far, I mean, looking back at the offseason, the whole getting Tyus for an expiring KP, cool. The Beal trade, I'm not going to fault Winger and Dawkins for. That the no trade clause there was nothing they could do there. And then getting Poole and then PBJ and Ryan Rollins and all that for the Chris Paul that we got in the Beal trade. I liked that. I mean, for the upside of Poole, it wasn't horrible. And like we said, we're in a deep rebuild. We can take on these high ceiling, low floor kind of young project players, and so far there isn't any, things could definitely change. I'm not gonna lie. When Tommy Shepard, some of his trades, like I really like the Kristaps trade. Like there was times was actually kind of high on Tommy Shepard and definitely soured on him after seeing how his draft picks turned out in some later trades, but. At least for now in the beginning, I'm happy with the Dawkins Winger regime, and yeah, at least for me, this trade gets 2 thumbs up. In terms of other Wizards transactions over the last week, as Wizards diehard fans here, we really do care about the 15th roster spot. Anthony Gill has taught us the importance of the 15th roster spot, but Hamidou Diallo got that 10-day contract and he occupied that roster spot for the last 10 days, which I was kind of, I mean, he doesn't really fit a team need right now, but I mean, any player potential is fine. I mean, and in the past few years, Diallo's been a solid enough hustle piece off the bench for OKC and Detroit and a few teams. So I was like, sure, if Coach West wants to give Diallo a few minutes here and there over the next few games, I'm all for it. I mean, he's played well for the Go-Go this year. But then, over his 10-day contract, I don't even think he played 5 minutes in total. Like, his stats are 2 games, and in those 2 games, he averaged 1 point per game. He got 1 bucket for the Wizards. So, I mean, for 10-day contracts, you can't really expect much, but I mean, I was hoping a little bit more from an established player like Diallo, but that's fine. I really assumed, after Diallo's 10-day contract expired, the Wizards have signed Trey Jamison, and even as a basketball sicko myself, I'd be lying if I said I knew much about Trey Jemison. He played college at Clemson before transferring to UAB, um, and then went undrafted. And it was a part of the Pelicans G League team, the Birmingham Squadron this year, averaged about 13 points per game. I mean, he's a 6'10 center, so, I mean, he's a center, so that's nice. Even though at 6'10, it's like, we need 7-footers. Like, Gafford, Bagley are already 6'10 dudes that sometimes get outmuscled. And, I mean, that's the whole reason why earlier this season, John Butler had a two-way contract, and he's technically a center, but he hasn't done much for the Go-Go, and John Butler has been cut. And then I guess now on the fringe roster spot we got Trey Jemison. So sure, I mean, he'll probably play 3 minutes in a blowout loss or something, and then he'll be gone too. Which I hope Trey Jemison proves me wrong as a lover of fringe bench players, but he might just become a future piece of obscure Wizards history. Maybe if you ever played Hoop Grids, he might be a good Hoop Grids answer in the future. Who knows? But yeah, I think honestly at this point, the 15th roster spot, maybe one or two other guys might get 10-day deals from either the Go-Go or just other G League affiliates. It really upsets me. I mean, we're adding centers for the 10-day roster spot when we could have just kept J Huff, my guy J Huff. Made me cry a little bit in the Nuggets game this week when I saw J Huff sitting next to talking to Jokic on the bench, and I was like, you should still be developing with us here. And instead, he's playing no minutes for the Nuggets, even though he shows some potential. I mean, G League Defensive Player of the Year last year. Let me get off my 15th roster spot soapbox for J Huff. Let me get off that right now. But looking at the bigger picture, I mean, yeah, the 15th roster spot is, I mean, it's probably being left open for trade flexibility, just in case the Wizards have found a trade partner that wants to send the Wizards multiple players. They can have a nice open roster spot to take in more players than they're sending out. So in reality, it's probably just going to be a bunch of 10-day contracts that keep getting handed out until the big trades, either with, Tyus, Gafford, Kuz, whoever gets moved and whoever we get back. Just having some nice roster flexibility is the main point of that last roster spot. But yeah, 10-day contract, Trey Jemison. Be on the lookout, I guess. All right, I'm going to do a quick speed recap of all the games since our last episode. In the last episode we did, the last game we covered was the Pacers loss on January 10th. So after that, the Wizards did have a really satisfying win against the Hawks, 127-99. That game, I think the real thing in that game was Kuz was pretty efficient, Poole was decent enough, and Kuz with a really efficient 29 points when either Kuz or Poole, they usually never do it at the same time, but when either or of them is having an efficient game, not shot chucking, actually like taking smart shots and all that, it really does make a big difference to the team, and they can have big wins. And I know the Hawks, I know, are a team with a bit of turmoil right now. The whole DeJounte Murray, Trae Young thing, it's obvious it hasn't worked. The addition of Quinn Snyder as the coach was hopeful last year, but that also hasn't done much. And definitely either Trae or DeJounte is probably going to get moved this trade deadline, more likely to DeJounte. But yeah, I mean, the Hawks aren't the strongest team to beat, but it's still a win against a team that's they're in the play-in hunt. So yeah, and when you're a 7-35 team, every little win is so satisfying, especially when right after that Hawks game on MLK Day against the Pistons, a 12-point loss to a team who may have one of the worst seasons in NBA history. It hurts, especially because that was right after the whole Bagley, Gallinari, Muscala trade, Livers, and Bagley wasn't available yet for that game. So we were shorthanded, sure, but that game still stung, and especially after a few months ago, if you remember, Kuzma tweeted, it was when the Pistons were blowing out the Celtics at halftime, and Kuzma tweeted out after the Celtics made their comeback that he was like, oh damn, and at this point everybody will do everything they can not to lose the Pistons, and then we lose the Pistons. So yeah, we can't be talking now. We do have the second worst record in NBA. But first, after that Pistons game, in our quick recap against the Knicks, I mean, the Knicks have just owned us this season. That we do seem to play well at MSG. I don't know why, but I mean, that game Brunson dropped 41 on us. Poole had a 24, which was nice, but yeah, overall between Randall and Brunson, the Knicks have owned us. Way Tom Thibodeau coaches that team, rough, tough hustle. It's exactly the opposite of how the Wizards play. So it was a 4-point game. I appreciate, like I said, this became the trend. I mean, obviously, Bagley was nice in this game with his Wizards debut. In that game, he did have that 20 and 11. So really like to see that there, and appreciate the close score. But yeah, in the end, it was another numb, poor fourth quarter showing from the Wizards. And then after that was a Spurs game, which was another very, very winnable game. And perk of losing that game, yes, yeah, now we have we're the second worst team. So seeing a team that we're fighting for like the number one pick in the draft, even though the three worst teams do have the same draft odds, it's still nice, I guess, to see the Spurs get a win, just to make sure we're extra comfy in that top three for draft lottery odds. But still, moral wise, like, yeah, we're tanking, and yeah, I understand the value of losing, and we definitely should be losing more than winning at this point in the season. But sometimes you do just want to beat the other basement teams just to show that we're not the worst of the worst. Like, yeah, I want the number one overall pick, but I would still like to win like 18, 19 games, maybe 20 this season. I think that wouldn't be too much to ask for, but also we're currently on pace for 14 wins as we're exactly at the middle point of the season. So, yeah, I mean, in that game, Wemby's a long dude. I mean, he's playing against his best friend Bilal there. And if they threw Bilal, Bagley, a whole bunch of different Denny and all that on Wemby, and yeah, it's just anyone over 7 foot this team has struggled with this season. So, and also the fourth quarter lead, I believe it was 10 or 12 points. I don't know what this team in the fourth quarter. If this team could close out some fourth quarters, we'd probably maybe have 12 or 13 wins in this season, which isn't much better, but it's just a fighting spirit. Like, you can be a losing team, but at least fight. That's what makes it hard to watch. And I will still keep tuning into the games, and I'm sure all of you will keep tuning into games too to see the development. I still love seeing the development of Bilal. Kuzma sometimes can be fun to watch and all that, but and even Denny and Corey are developing on some nights, not every night, but yeah. And then the last game in our rapid recap from the last week is the Nuggets game, a 113-104 loss. Tyus had a nice little double-double, 15 and 13, really upping that trade value. At this point, at the beginning of the season, some Tyus had a slow start, I'm not gonna lie, and I was kind of scared. I was like, oh no, we're gonna get like some weird like 3 second-round picks in a deal for him. But at this point, especially with the trade prowess that Winker and Dawkins have showed, I think we can get a first round pick. It will probably be heavy protections on it, but I think there's something, and especially I mean, there's teams that need point guards out there. Obviously the Heat just got Terry Rozier, so they're probably not going to trade for him, but 76ers might still want to pair up Jones as a backup to Maxey, or maybe play alongside Maxey. And I mean, Lakers are not happy with D'Lo, so they've been shopping around for a point guard. So I definitely think there's some strong playoff team out there that will want Tyus and might be willing to part with a protected future first round pick. So yeah, definitely. Tyus has definitely been an upgrade over Monte, so that's nice. And Gafford had 15 and 7, and then Bagley also had 14 and 7. So I'm just pointing out the Gafford and Bagley stats there, just because, I mean, it is nice to see that between the two of them, 29 points, 14 rebounds. That's a solid combination. And yes, they did still allow Jokic to get 42 points on them, but he does that to a lot of teams. So, I mean, and it is interesting because Jokic, when you watch him play, he either is looking, which I think honestly the Nuggets are best when he's looking to facilitate, but then there's some situations, either when he's playing against a bad team, he will throw some more shots up just because the looks are easy. And against Bagley, yeah, the looks were easier for Jokic. He could just outmuscle him. And even though honestly, like, a lot of the points Jokic scored were just like off easy offensive rebounds. Bro did not even jump on the putbacks, and those make me like want to punch the TV when the Wizards give up easy points like that. But I mean, there's other cases too where the teams do a game plan to make Jokic a scorer and involve his teammates less. And playmaking Jokic is the best Jokic, but he can dominate when he scores. But against a good team, it is his Achilles heel when he can't play make as well and get people like Jamal Murray and PJ, all of the gang involved. But look, against the Wizards, I think whatever the Nuggets game plan was, with the amount of talent they have, they were fine. KCP had a nice defensive effort against us. further proving we lost that Monte Morris Will Barton trade, or yeah, a few years ago with the Nuggets. It is what it is. The last few years, a lot of losses to the Nuggets when we're looking at our history, and you'd think, oh, maybe Coach Wes is their former assistant. He would had know their secrets, maybe have their number, but no, we're just the Wizards. So a lot of losses, but yeah, I mean, overall, there's been more positives this last week from the few, even though still a lot of L's, but definitely a lot more positives in terms of team chemistry seems decent enough at times. Obviously, the ball still is kind of dies when either Kuz or Poole touches the ball, but if Tyus is facilitating, or even Denny the last few games, something I've noticed West has done a little more. A rotation changed. I mean, Denny's still starting, but he's been playing a lot more with the second unit, and in those moments where he's been playing with the second unit, it's been nice to see him be like a little bit more of a facilitator, because Denny he is a sneaky nice playmaker. I mean, usually the last few seasons he averages like 5-6 assists per game, and it's nice to see Coach West finally utilize that a bit, make Denny the playmaker, especially because like with the second unit, I love me some DeLon Wright on defense, and he's a decent enough playmaker too, but he's still, I mean, there's no amazing like world class offense going with DeLon Wright as a backup point guard. So yeah, I've been liking the progress from Denny there in terms of performances the last week. I've liked Shamit, another guy upping his trade value. He's been playing like 15, 20 minutes a lot in the past few games, and then he's scoring like 14 points in 14 minutes. Like for instance, in the Nuggets game, let's pull it up right here. Let's see. Yeah, he had 14 points in 16 minutes. Now I guess he understands he has the green light 2-shot chuck. I mean, he shot 1 for 5 from 3, but that's fine. At this point, this whole team knows they kind of have the green light to shoot as many threes as they want, even if it's not going down. But yeah, Shaman is definitely. I mean, I was concerned a little bit with Shaman getting minutes this year because I knew he was going to get minutes because we have to up his trade value, and I know Phoenix fans really did not like Shaman the past few years with some of his moments and all that. And yeah, I mean, it is a bit weird to me that Shaman does play a lot of closing minutes. He plays a lot of minutes with the starters too, even though coming off the bench, which is kind of weird, especially because he's undersized and all that. But I mean, overall, I've been satisfied with Shaman off the bench, and yeah, I mean, keep up in the trade value. I mean, Shaman is not getting, even with Shaman's recent play, he's not getting a first round pick, but with a player like Shaman, if we can get like some player that's under 25 plus some second round picks to go along with that youngish player, I'll take it. So yeah. Now, quickly looking to the next game on the schedule, with every game that passes, especially with NBA trade season heating up, obviously we had, which I do want to quickly mention, honestly, the recent trades have given me further hope that the Wizards will get good draft compensation for the future trades they make at the deadline, because, I mean, just today, yesterday, we had the Rozier for Lowry trade, and also with the Hornets besides Kyle Lowry, they also got a first-round pick, which is nice to see. I mean, Terry Rozier has had a nice season this year, but I still don't think of him as, the most efficient player. Like, still not a very fringe first-round pick in a trade kind of player. So it's nice to see him getting a first-round pick. In the Pacers Hornets deal, I mean, my bad. The Pacers Raptors deal. I mean, Siakam got 3 first-round picks, and because I remember a few years ago, Gobert got 4 first-round picks, and first-round picks are being traded. Like, honestly, they were being devalued, and I think on that curve, first-round picks are becoming more valuable again. But still, like, it's nice to see that players with value, it's not plateauing. Like, a lot of people were predicting, oh, Siakam, he's an expiring deal. He might only get some super, super, super protected 1 or 2 first-round picks. But it's nice to see that the Raptors still were able to get Bruce Brown, a player that they can flip for more assets, and then also 3 first-round picks. So that's really nice to see. And if you've been looking at the Kuzma trade rumors, they've been predicting 2 second-round picks is the asking price that Michael Winger and Will Dawkins have for him in the trade market. And I know the Kings, Mavs are a couple teams that are rumored. I guess the Kings deal would look like ideally 1 or 2 first-round picks plus Harrison Barnes, which, sure, I mean, Barnes, I believe, yeah, Barnes is under contract for a few more years, so I guess we could either try immediately flipping him or maybe in a next year, trade him for something. So sure. I mean, I'm not gonna go get up over heels over Harrison Barnes and his trade value, but if the Kings throw us a pick, sure, I'll take it. Even though the Kings pick will probably be in the 20s, but it's still a pick. There's still value to be had. Obviously, the Heat. This year's draft, I found Jaime Jaquez in the late first round, so that was nice. And the Mavs, I mean, with the Mavs, they have a lot of protections on their picks, but I mean, and they also don't have many picks available because they've been between the Kyrie trade and a lot of other trades the last few years. They don't have many first round picks available, but honestly, you can get some, even if it's years down the line, you can get some first round pick, and then a player like, I know people have been calling Josh Green a cardio king this year just because his development has slowed down a little bit this year, but I would still be happy with like a Josh Green or plus Tim Hardaway. Sure, that's either flippable or maybe we can keep help. Well, maybe not Hardaway, but Josh Green is still young enough where he could be developed. So yeah, I'm honestly the last few weeks. I mean, am I hopeful for Wizards wins? No, but I've definitely become at least a little bit more hopeful that our trade value has increased. And yeah, with every game, I have no idea if this is going to be the last game we get to see Kyle Kuzma or Tyus Jones in the Wizards uniform. But I mean, looking at our next game, at least for now, Kuzma, Tyus are still on the roster. It is against the Timberwolves, who number 1 seed in the West. Yeah, we're not going to win. That's obvious. But if we can have another game where we're within 10 points, I will clap it up for the Marvin Bagley effect and the Marvin Bagley hustle effect, because definitely like if you I don't want to keep praising Bagley and all that just because I'm sure there'll be at some point this season like, okay, he's Marvin Bagley, but it's just refreshing to see a player like Bagley hustle, and if it can extend the rest of the team, then great. But yeah, overall goal, stay within 10 points. I mean, and the Timberwolves in their last game, Karl Anthony Towns dropped 62 points, and you would think with 62, automatic win, especially for a team that's number 1 in the West, playing against the Hornets, a basement team, a team that the Wizards have beat this year. You would think that the Timberwolves would have won, but no, their Timberwolves are coming off a loss to the Hornets, so I don't know, they might be motivated after losing to a bad team. I mean, they definitely don't want to lose to 2 bad Eastern Conference teams in a row, so even though we beat the Hornets this year and all that, yeah, we're still probably gonna lose to the Timberwolves, but yeah, it would just be interesting to see how the next round, the Gafford Bagley combination, how well they can contain Cat. My guess is Cat was probably gonna drop 30-ish on us. Anthony Edwards probably will also drop around 30 on us, and can't forget Gobert. Okay, this game is visually a nightmare for the Wizards, but if we can keep either Cat or Edwards under 30, I'll consider it something for the defensive prowess of Wes Unseld Jr.'s scheme, if there even is any scheme there. But definitely I'll either the night of the game, which is tomorrow, or the day after. I'm not sure if Roger will join me, but I'll definitely try to do a game recap of that, and then also upcoming 100%. Well, actually, I don't want to say 100%. That's a dangerous. Commitment is a very, very, very dangerous thing to do, but definitely trying to do a. But yeah, it'll be pretty likely that this weekend either me and Raj or just myself again will try to do a trade deadline special episode. So me and Raj will have 4 or 5 trade proposals involving players like Tyus, Delon, Kuzma, maybe Poole, even though it's going to be hard to find any trade that another team would want to do involving Poole. But I'll have a couple of trades ready in the trade machine to throw at y'all. Try to do some trades that maybe people haven't been thinking of as much. Put my real, yeah, I'm a better GM than Will Dawkins hat on, even though I'm being like, okay, I'll be humble. I know I'm not. He's the professional, and I still have faith in the front office, but I'll definitely try to throw some under the radar trades that should be considered more. And then we'll also review the bigger trade rumors, such as mentioned the Kuzma to Dallas and those huge trade rumors that have been flying around. And Gafford has also been involved in some trade rumors recently, so. Yeah, we'll definitely also we'll compare some of my trade proposals to the big rumors out there, and yeah, it should be a fun time. But yeah, I'm glad to be back on the podcast today, and definitely over the next few weeks we'll try to get more consistent once again with the upload schedule. Now that I'm more situated in college, that should be happening, and yeah, I'm still been watching all the Wizards games every day. I'm keeping up the news. I'm a Wizards fanatic. I live and breathe this stuff, and I love all of you other fellow Wizards. People think of us as a small community, but we're a very tight knit community. So appreciate you supporting the Wizards, supporting us this podcast. I'm looking forward to the future. We're still every episode we're gonna get better. Gonna introduce some more fun interactive segments. But yeah, some ideas for future segments that we've been cooking up. Maybe looking at some funny Wizards tweets or Wizards subreddit comments. Maybe some trivia. Maybe some name that Wizards player. But yeah, me and Raj got a lot of fun things cooking. We appreciate you once again being on with us on this early journey of the podcast. Right now in our early stages, leaving us a 5-star review really helps a lot. So please do that on Spotify. Leave a thumbs up on YouTube, leave a comment, just any kind of positive engagement. It really helps us out right now, and we love you guys for listening. Love the Wizards, love you guys, and I mean, if you have any negative comments, please don't throw that toward us. Throw that to the Wizards and on some of their Twitter or Instagram posts, directed toward the team, not us. If you aren't a fan of the podcast, but hopefully you've been enjoying. I'll pause the sentimental stuff. I'm just having a lot of fun doing this, but yeah. Thank you again for joining us. Once again, I'm Sully. This is the Bullets to Wizards podcast, and until our next episode, which hopefully very soon in a day or two, promise. Well, no, yeah, I promise. Before our next episode in a day or two, just want to remind you, keep on shooting those DC threes. So yeah, peace, guys.